Hello and welcome to The Witch Source. I am super excited today. I get to interview Lone Wolf, and we have recently been able to partner up a little bit, and I'm now running a show thanks to him on the Fringe TV. So that's really cool, and we will talk more about that in a little bit. So I'm excited to be here. Welcome.
Welcome. Thanks for having me on, Whitney.
Yeah, I'm glad we're getting to do this. Um, all right, so I want to just start at the beginning. I think that's always the best place to start. What was your introduction into magic and the craft? Like, what was your first interactions with it or hearing about it?
Well, my first interaction with magic, I think, was well, I can remember. I think when I was 3 or 4 years old. Well, I was turning 3 years old, and they came out with this cake, and and they put these three little candles on the cake, and they were like, "Happy birthday, Harold! Blow the candle out and make a wish." And I took a deep breath and I blew that candle out and I made a wish, and I think ever since then I've been practicing magic.
Oh, that's awesome. That's an awesome story. Okay, I love that. I'm so glad you shared that. So, where did it progress from there?
Well, I think we're progress from there. I mean, if we're talking about paganism and the craft in general, is um, I grew up with a hard lifestyle. I came from a broken home. There was alcoholism in the home. There was abuse going on in the home, and there was a gentleman that had gotten out of prison, and he had his own place. And I was like 12 or 13, and he basically was older. I think he was like 19 or something like that. And well, when I was 13, I used to smoke cigarettes, and because at 13, you're young, you smoke cigarettes. It's like you're with the cool kids or whatever.
Right,
And
right.
as mundane as that sounds, that was the reality when I was 13. And the guy who come out, he smoked cigarettes too, but he was a pagan. He said, "Well, come on over to my house and we'll listen to like I think it was well, Meatloaf. We'd sit around and like he had this huge music system and we'd blare rock and roll and I would smoke cigarettes and I was cool with it because place to chill, that wasn't like, in the park or, behind a dumpster, being young, smoking
Right.
cigarettes. And he was a pagan fella, so I think that was the first interaction with pagans within my immediate community in Concord, New Hampshire. Um, but it was only when I was about 19 years old that I really was exposed and started to really seek out a pagan lifestyle and spirituality.
Mm.
And as I talk about alcoholism and coming from a broken home and a rough childhood, with the alcoholism, I did some things that, probably weren't, very honorable. I had a lot of problems. Um, I got into some trouble when I would drink, being ignorant with, my actions or getting into altercations with people because of intoxication. And that's where I come from. I come from the streets, man. I really do. I come from that hard knock life. Um, and well, and part of that, that comes with consequences. So
Right.
here I am at 19 years old, and I'm in a Florida prison called Appalachia Correctional Institution. It's the same prison that Trick Daddy from Florida comes from. Now, Trick Daddy's a big shot rapper from Florida. If anybody, identifies with that. Well, I was at that prison, and somebody passed my bunk and said, "Hey, man, check these out." And they shot me these periodical magazines called the Rays of Light, which was a group from Pottsville, Pennsylvania, that wrote about paganism in different forms: Norse paganism, Wicca, regular craft, herbology, and I read it. And I looked at it and I read it and I was like, wow, this is really good. Because this is a time in my life, well, a lot of people when they're incarcerated, and this happens a lot within our culture, especially in the late 90s and early 2000, where you have like the whole jailhouse Christian thing.
Yeah.
A lot of people come to jail and they don't have anything to reflect on. They hold their spirituality a lot more close. You have people that go in there and they're devout Christians, while they're there, and they get out and they have recidivism. And that happens with all kinds of religions. You have people that go in there and find Islam. You have people that find Buddhist traditions. You have people that find Christianity. Well, Harold Carter found the craft. And well, that one magazine periodical, I looked at, I really liked that. So I went back to the fella. His name was Chi Chi. And I was at a male prison. His name was Chi Chi. And I said, Chi Chi, I said, do you got any more of those, man? And he said, yeah. He said, I said, cool. Can I check them out? He says, yeah. So he gave me like 4 or 5 of them. And there I sat all night reading every one of them, word for word. I'm like, wow, this is cool. I like this. This is really cool. And I would think about, the pagan guy that I met earlier on and stuff. And it was the spirituality that resonated with me. This is a time where I was researching and diving into all the spiritual traditions on the planet, getting to know them all, because they all had different flavor. Because ultimately, as I was coming from that childhood of, the broken home, the alcoholism, I wanted to be better than that. I didn't want to be in jail. I didn't want to be a failure. I wanted to be better. I really did. It just came. I just wasn't ready to make, specific changes. Um, so, so yeah, and so I wrote to the Millennial Kingdom place, to a woman by the name of Louise Ann Salen, who is no longer with us. And I said, hey man, I like this, periodical, like the magazine. Can I get involved? And they had like a little sheet you fill out. What's your path and how long you've been practicing? Because they want they want to know too, because they're an outreach for prisoners.
Right.
And this particular periodical was only, accessible, I think, in a few states. They ran an ad in, I think, Witches and Pagans or something like that, and that's how it came to that prison to begin with. So I created a relationship with Louise Ann Salen, and she was married to a fellow named Paul Salen. And I started to spend my money buying books on magic. And then, I found people seldom, once in a while, I would bump into people within these prison systems. This one was Florida, that were intrigued by Wicca or paganism, or magic or ceremonial magic. And I would, flock to them. Like attracts like.
Right.
Um, but the first person that really gave me like advice on what books to get. Well, first of all, the first craft book I ever owned, ever read, ever studied was The Craft. It's a green book. It's from Dorothy Morrison. And Dorothy
Yes.
Morrison's been around forever. And I have talked to Dorothy Morrison, on social media a few times. Um, and it was a real privilege because it was the first book. So
Right.
yeah, she's like the old school. So that's what was available, was books like that. That was the first book. The first ceremonial book that I ever read was a book called Modern Magic by Donald Michael Craig, and that put me into with the Golden Dawn magical tradition. That's when they implemented, rituals like LBRP, the LBRH, and then from there it kind of built up because they have that little, I think it's bibliography or something like that. Back in the books, they give references of other books. So
Yes.
it was like a big rabbit hole, even in the early days, where I got this, but they saying to go here. So that's kind of where it started. And I started to write like these little articles about, what I was my experiences, and that periodical that I'm talking about, Raise the Light. They put me in print, which wasn't a big deal, but at the time it was. So it was like I was studying.
Right.
So after, and that's kind of like my earliest involvement with, paganism in the craft, because, you know, um, when people are incarcerated, they do reach out to some type of spirituality, and that's why you have that whole um, stereotype of jailhouse Christian. You know,
Right.
you're only
Right.
doing that because you're in jail. And then like the recidivism is so fluent, in this country and I'm sure worldwide. Recidivism is a thing for every person, uh, you know, that have issues. And ultimately, uh, it did the craft is ultimately, well, I know that it's my fault. It was ultimately my choice to, make changes, so I didn't fall back into the downfalls of recidivism.
Right.
But I accredit that I accredit that cycle being broken because that's exactly what recidivism is. I mean, we talk about circles, in the craft, and reoccurring things. That's all a lot of like repetition, like revolving things. I mean,
Yeah.
uh, recidivism is a hard thing to break. It really is. Statistically, like 70 or 80% of prisoners reoffend within the first year. So that's a big part of the real hero code. The real lone wolf comes from that culture, that very different culture. And now in modern times, I live within a community of people that is very distant than that community of people that I was involved in my youth. Um,
Right.
so in a lot of ways, I accredit the craft. I accredit contemporary witchcraft, contemporary paganism, the old ways. I accredit and give thanks to this form of spirituality because without it, I think I would have had a rough patch. I think that this is home for me, and to live in society. I don't know how to live any other way and stay free. It
Mhm.
is within the vices of the craft and paganism that I found how to reach my highest ideals, how to be the best version of me. Um, and that, comes through, what I'm good at. Like, I do music, I play the sixth string, I'll sing, I'll do my pagan hip hop stuff. And that's kind of the same things that I was doing in my old life because, I was writing hip hop music, within the confines of the razor wire jungle. Definitely was. But with the transition, it went with me. Uh,
Right.
so so that's kind of an inside look of the history of magic. But the one with the cake when I was 3 or 4, that's just kind of my way of explaining that. Well, magic is something that we all do. I mean,
Yeah.
from every household, from every, I mean, even a Christian household or any household, like those are old customs. Those customs come from somewhere.
Yes, they do.
Somewhere, the custom of blowing out the can, that's candle magic
Yeah.
101. When you give the cake to your child and you say, hey, look, I mean, in essence, and for real, I've been practicing magic since I was 3 years old. um, I mean, when I was 4 years old, I had an imaginary friend. I mean, is that not? I don't know if that's considered magic. Um,
I think
but
it's definitely in that realm. I mean, it's one of your clear senses and your psychic self kicking up. So I definitely think it counts.
Mhm,
Embracing it, I think, is the magical part.
mhm.
Yeah. I love that. Thank you so much for sharing all that. And I do. I love that you shared that beginning story because it's so true. People have and are practicing magic, whether they realize it or not. It's always been with us, just like you're saying. Um, so, yeah, absolutely. Okay, so take us from there to, well, let me back up a second. So, tell me about when did you develop your love for music? Because the two, you said the two intertwines. So where did you, we know where you started with the craft. So where did you start with music?
I mean, music was in juvie hall. I mean, when I was in juvie hall, um, rapping was like the big thing in juvie hall. People used to bang on the tables and be like, "Yo, yo, kid, yo, Sean." We'd write rhymes and stuff, and we'd kick a beat, we'd beatbox and kick a beat, and they would share, their poetry or their, written rhymes, and we'd read it off the paper. It was kind of like the thing where, that's to me, that's kind of where I fit in, when I started writing. And I can remember sitting in juvie hall looking at something called the Source magazine. Source magazine is like a hip hop magazine, like old school, and I used to sit in like read the back of these magazines where they'd have like listings of DJ equipment and music production equipment and beat machines and drum machines and I'll be like, man, I want to get this stuff, and it was like and back then it was like, $15,000 for this, or $1,000 for this, and I used to just dream about doing that in the back of these magazines, and that became reality. I mean, it took many many years, but that's kind of where it started. And as I was talking about the recidivism in my youth and stuff, every time that I would you know get myself locked up, because getting locked up was, it's something that I did myself. um,
Right.
I didn't, I would write more music. Um, so yeah, as far as the recidivism goes, and the craft was always there. Craft was always there. It was just my alcoholism that led to my recidivism. Because truth be told, I've never been a criminal. I'm not a criminal. I never was a criminal. I was an alcoholic. And unfortunately, with alcoholism comes with criminal things that were done. And judges, they don't care that if you're a criminal, because if I was a criminal, like when I was doing crimes, like, I didn't have all kinds of money, and had stuff set
Right.
up. I didn't have money. I was broke. I was like drunk. But when I would become incarcerated, I would write more music, and study more craft. I mean, it was a recidivism thing. I would be in jail, then I would study more craft, and then I would get out, and then I would drink more beer, and then I would go back to jail, and I would study more craft. And then eventually, after about 4 times of that revolving door back and forth, I said, hold on a minute, you know, and it's public knowledge. I come across some writing. I had some coaching by some Neo-Alexandrians that helped me out. They gave me some pro se from Dorian Valiente, coming from the Charge of the Goddess. And one of the excerpts is reaching your highest ideals. And it hit home. And reaching your highest ideals, okay, how am I going to do this music if I'm always locked up? It's just like you're not reaching your
Right.
highest ideals. It just took a lot. And in the craft, I've heard a saying that says that to learn, we must first learn to suffer. And I know that there's some people that disagree with that, and stuff, but to me it resonates with me because there was a lot of suffering that went along with the way that I came up. Um,
Mm.
Constant recidivism, and suffering and trying to find a way out. I wanted to get out of that bad situation so bad. I didn't want to keep going back to jail. There's so much raw negative energy that goes through those type of places. You
Right.
know, um,
Yeah.
you don't find. I mean, I'm not saying that there are not good men in those places, because there are good men in those places, but there also is bad men in those places.
Mhm.
And that is a eaten or be eaten culture in those places that is very, very different from society. Um, and coming, straight out of that particular culture and trying to, go into pagan culture is a big change. And it was a big, huge learning curve. Um, and and I'm glad that that this particular spirituality is here. I'm glad that it is given to humanity. Which is basically the old ways. In whatever way that you internalize it. Um, but yeah, I don't know if that answers your question or not.
It's on the lines of it very much, but it's brought to mind other questions actually. So I like where you're going with this. So you're talking about how paganism helped you through the fact that paganism focuses on cycles. And we look at nature as the example. We cycle through the seasons every year, and but we can also get stuck in cycles. And it's about we're back. Okay. And it's about breaking those certain cycles, and learning when you're supposed to flow with the cycles or break a cycle. Um, so can you? maybe go into, and you've mentioned twice that you realized that you got yourself into that position. Now, when you were continuously getting locked up, you didn't have that same mentality, did you?
When I got myself locked up, I mean, I say that now. Um,
Right,
a lot of times when you talk to somebody, while you're in the belly of the beast, and you're talking to somebody, they'll be like, "Yeah, when they locked me up, that's the thing. When they locked you up, hold up now, they didn't lock you up, you locked you up." And
right,
that's one of the biggest things in paganism, contemporary paganism, that is very important. Pagans take responsibility for everything that we do, you know. And this has a lot to do, and not to say that any particular path is bad, but that's
right,
why we don't. That's why pagans don't embrace a scapegoat god, or the sun god, and say, okay, I'm giving all my problems to the sun god, and everything's going to be fine. You know, no, pagans take responsibility for everything that they do. We're not going to give it away to somebody else, and that was just another like learning curve. So yeah, I would say 100% pagans are a very responsible bunch.
yes, and that's what I wanted to get you to share about, how you didn't have that mentality at first, um, but then through embracing paganism and the spirituality and the looking at the core of paganism, you are able to make that shift and realize the difference. Can you share, if you remember, when like the moment was that you had the aha and you were like, wait, I get it now. I made this happen. I can make it stop. Um, and all I have to do is change. Do you remember, like, can you pinpoint like when that kind of sunk in, or did it just like build up over time?
The only thing that makes me think of is, um, when I wasn't incarcerated, when I was free, I would be like a vagabond. I jump trains, I would hitchhike, I would ride Greyhound, I would ride plane, just go everywhere in the continental United States. Probably not a U.S. city I have not been in. Country, city, I've been to a lot of different places. When I bumped into one person, because people do reach out and say, "Hey man, what are you doing?" Like, "Oh, I'm just living on the streets, going here." They'll hook you up. They'll be like, "Oh, well, here's $5, man. Go get yourself a hamburger," or "Are you good, man?" Stuff like that. I bumped into some kind of psychologist or something. He brought me to his place. I had a shower. We had something to eat, and he told me, looked at me, and says, "I know you're going through some rough patches right now, but you will redeem yourself to your family." So while I'm incarcerated, I had that was always in the back of my head, because, like I was saying earlier in the interview, is I didn't want to keep doing this recidivism. I became aware of this recidivism. I had
Right.
awareness of this. This is a cycle that I wanted to break, but I didn't know how. And but I did ended up figuring out how. And I think what you're asking is, how did I come to the realization? I think the realization happens with awareness. That's the key. That's the key, I think, to be
Yes.
aware. And like when you talk about um, occult philosophies and stuff, every major magical school of thought, the first thing they tell you is know thyself, know yourself. So if I really know myself, I know that every time I go to jail, I'm intoxicated because I'm drinking way too much grandpa's medicine. So the problem is grandpa's medicine. So, and that took a lot of times. I knew that it was the problem, but then I was just like the denial thing. Like I'd be in jail one time, and I'd be like, "Yep, when I get out, no more drinking." Guess what? I get out, more drinking. Then I'll do it
Right.
again. I know that the problem's there. Nope, nope, no more drinking. It just takes the willpower, and that's just like another lesson of
Yes.
contemporary witchcraft is the will. When you start bending your will, how much strength do you have with your will? And that comes with like discipline and stuff like that. And it's not easy, for people in addictions and alcoholisms and stuff like that, to break, those negative attributes. And because they're not problems for everyone, but this was my life path. So think to answer your question, it's just basically uh, willpower, um, highest ideals, and the realization is that I knew there was a problem. I had to come up with a solution. If I really wanted to do music, if I wanted to be a free man, if I didn't want to die an old man in jail alone, I'm good with that. I had to make some changes. Um, I had a really good roadmap with contemporary craft. And, I kind of took what the craft was there publicly written in the different manuscripts and I applied it. And it hasn't failed me yet. Um, and truth be told, I'm still on state parole. I'm on state parole right now. Guess what? Next year I'm off state parole. Yay. But it's just like I've made my own bed. Now I have to lay in it. Um, and truth be told is we got to make our beds a little bit better because we're going to be laying them in for a while. So from now on, I'm going to be making my bed real comfy.
Right, right.
Right.
I love that. So you've talked about so many core pieces of the craft from, awareness and taking responsibility and, breaking the cycles and, you know, just, saying, I'm going to use my willpower to make these changes. I mean, that's another, principle right there. And you're right. When it comes to the craft, like you don't say the devil made me do it. Like you realize you did it, but
Mm-hmm.
you can undo it. It gives you the power and the control. And it's some of the exact same things that um, make me fall in love with the craft as well and become passionate about it, like you are. Um, okay, so talking about awareness, was there a moment when you became aware, if you're willing to share? Not everybody is, and I understand that because it's so personal. But was there a moment in which you became aware that this world, this universe, this maybe it was a particular deity, had your back, that was there for you, would communicate with you or help you or move you? Was there a moment when you had this awareness about that?
Um, I'm not. I'm not too sure. What I can say is that um, I had a high priestess that I talked to that told me one day. She said, um, "Wow, look at you! You've come a long way. You must be empowered by the gods, or the gods must show favor with you." I mean, it's definitely it definitely boosts the ego, but it reinforces it enough where I'm like, yeah, and I kind of went with it. Um, and yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but it makes me think about
Okay, yeah, no, I'll take that. I think there are moments, and maybe you can share if you have one of these too, um, that you feel comfortable sharing. Is there a moment where you're like, magic works? Like a moment where you had this awareness of, um, that just happened, or I just did this, or something shifted, something just changed, where you had just this magical moment where if it hadn't been for you and your path and whatever is out there watching out for you, things wouldn't have turned out the way they did.
it. Yes, magic does work, and it's not like the hoorah that people like really believe that it is. Um, Magic, it like creating your own reality. Like I no longer wanted the reality of um, incarceration. I changed my reality. That's magic. I my your reality changes and it starts from within. If you really want to affect the outside world, you you change what is in you, the inside world. And that's the real magic. The real magic's inside of you. The things that you do or the will is very fierce. if you have the strength to pursue something, you can make it happen. Um, and that can come with like and even with visualization, like you have a goal that you have, you infuse the goal. You can't just expect it to happen. You have to go for it. um, yeah, a lot of people think that like magic is like, oh, hocus pocus and all that stuff.
Right.
It's really not. It's just something that's here. It's mundane. It's always been here. It's always been here. Yeah, uh, I guess I'm having a hard time explaining it.
No, I think you're doing a great job, actually. I think that was perfect because I think the best thing you said is the magic is within you,
Mm,
um, because that's the piece that people sometimes seem to forget. Um, they think that it's out there or you know, it's going to be something big and showy, but it's hitting little milestones for yourself and accomplishing your goals and using what the craft teaches and actually applying it to your life, not just in a ritual, not just to do a spell and get what you want. You have to internalize it and you become a living spell, creating, like you said, the reality that you want.
right.
Um,
And Whitney. That's exactly why you have, the common talk in our community where it says that magic is not something that we do. Magic is something that we are, because we are the magic. We
yeah,
don't do magic. We don't practice magic. We live this magic, and we live it internally. We live it by what we do inside, by knowing ourselves. And whatever you can do to know yourself, it will help, the things that you do in the future. If you know, like for my case, for example, if I know that, well, alcohol is not really the best thing that I should be doing, once I get rid of that roadblock, then you have more doors that can open. And I think when you can open doors for yourself, it just makes more doors, I suppose.
right. But each door that you open gets you further and further and further to where you want to be. And that's another thing, like, I love you just said, because so many people feel like they're waiting on something outside of them to open the door.
Mhm,
But like you said, we open the door. And when we
mhm.
open the door, that's the pathway to opening more.
Yeah, that
Um,
reminds me of the gatekeepers. Man, there's always something like and like the whole gatekeeping thing. That's not a new thing. That stuff's been going on for like decades. And and my 2 cents on gatekeeping is this: yes, there are gatekeepers. Truth be told, sorry about your bad luck. There's gatekeepers. However, if you show up to one of those gatekeepers with a key, guess who's going to let you in?
right,
Because you worked on what you had to do inside. They got to let you pass because you had a key with you. Now, gatekeeping is like a paradox situation. It really is. Paradox meaning it can work both. It can work both ways. It works both ways. Yes, they're gatekeepers, but people have within inside themselves that they are the gatekeepers really, because they're the ones that have to go through those doorways. If you are, creating so much things for yourself, that are so fruitful and so lovely, gatekeeper will look at you and say, "Wow, we got to let you through these gates, man. Look at all you've done. Look at all you've done for yourself and for people around you, man. We got to let you through."
right.
And that's what it comes down to. I think is, that's why that's why the gatekeeper, opinion, and there are gatekeepers, but I think that you also are the gatekeeper. um, so, and it's the responsibility thing, and yeah, I guess that's just a hard one there, and they're always going to talk about that even decades from now. They're going to say you're gatekeeping, and it's just one of those things that never go away. um,
Right.
but I think we should just worry about ourselves, and we got to be our best versions of ourselves, and reach the highest limits that we can. Um, you know, and that can be said from that old Golden Dawn magical tradition. In the preamble in one of those old books manuscripts, they say that only with the sweat of your brow will you obtain magical power, and that's really true. Because only with the most earnest, hardest work will you get anything done. This is not an easy path. This is not a TikTok minute. You can't
Right.
just watch TikTok videos and get all the secrets, man. And guess what? There's no secrets, man. You got the secrets. It's with hard work.
Right.
There's no secrets. The secrets are within you. You change yourself, you change the things around you. You change your own reality by changing your reality. I would, yes, I can say that. That makes sense, I guess. Yeah.
Yes. 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 I love that. And wow, this is this has been so amazing so far. Let's keep going because this is great, and I think this is um, definitely something that I think people seeking need to hear. But I think it's also a great reminder for the person that's been at this a while, if they feel like they've plateaued or um, they've kind of lost their um, spirit within, that spark that makes them want to continue. I think this is a great reminder and motivator to keep going and keep creating. Um, okay, now let's merge the two. So, where did your music kind of start to evolve from, making beats in Juvie Hall to exploring and expanding and turning that into part of your craft to create this pagan music that you do?
Well, it was kind of like a slow process. I mean, when I was banging on tables in Juvie Hall, we would just talk about the hardship we went through there. Uh, the guards stink. They don't give us enough food. I wish I had two more milks. And then and then as it progressed, as I'm reading and getting more knowledge, and uh, you know, I've always talked about what I've been going through. It's always a reflection of your experiences, your hardships, which can become inspirational, because inspiration in itself is kind of like the best of magics. um, and where it's just a reflection of myself. As I grew into a spiritual being, my music just became a reflection of that. And since I came from that culture, that culture that I was talking about, since I came from that hard knock life, in that hard knock life, you know, that's hip hop, man. That's where the struggle is. That's just contemporary culture. That's just how it is. And nowadays, it didn't matter what race. It didn't matter. It didn't matter. None of that stuff. It's not about ethnical background. Hip hop is music. Music is for everyone.
Yes.
Um, and it just kind of meshed well. Um, and I like to say I like all different genres of music. And for some reason, I'm known as a pagan rapper, which is cool. I wish people would start realizing I do play six string, and I'll sing you a song. I'll even play some Johnny Cash. You know,
Oh
but
yeah.
but I'm known as a pagan rapper. That's fine. That's fine. But yeah, they definitely did mesh. They meshed, and there was a time where that to me it's to me the old Harold was like an ignorant mentality, and and I know that now because it's just like the taste. Even my taste of music has changed. When I was growing up, as a 20-year-old man, I was a Tupac fanatic. Man, I love some Pac. I'm bumping that Pac. I'm feeling good. I'm getting my alpha on, stuff like that. I listen to Tupac today, and I find it repulsive. It's repulsive because that message does not resonate with my spirit anymore. I don't have the same frequency. My frequency is a lot different than it was 20 years ago. And it's because of that frequency change, the tuning of that frequency is different. The reflection of my music changes. The reflection of the passion changes, and it developed into a spiritual message. And I would like to say, you know, I would like to say I'm always going to attempt to keep music in a positive light. But thinking also, but the craft isn't all positive love and light either, because Mother Nature shows us, tells us that nature is not all love and handshakes, and stuff like that. And all that. I would like to be an advocate for peace. I really would. Um, but sometimes it's necessary. Some things become necessary. And if we are to truly model our spirituality in craft circles, we must identify that nature is not all love and light. Um, uh, but ultimately, I want the music to remain positive because I want to stay positive. I want to be happy and satisfied um, and a better frequency, a better frequency to get along with. And there's an old thing that the Wiccans say that because there's a lot of good stuff that the Wiccans say. It really does. I studied Wicca for a lot of years. One of the things that they say is to live and let live. And so when you live and let live, you just kind of, I mean, I don't really know the point on definition of live and let live, but to me, it means kind of just go with the flow, man. Live and let live means kind of like go with the flow, um, and you know, don't be a buzzkill, like kind of like just go with it, be happy go lucky kind of a situation. Like don't be a bummer, don't bring us down, have that jolly good energy, or to push out because let's face it, people aren't attracted to mopers.
Right.
People aren't attracted to that. People like ecstatic, good energy around them that makes them feel good. To live and let live, I think it has to have elements of that feel good. You know, um,
I love everything that you're saying, and it makes so much sense. I've had the exact same experience with music, stuff that I used to love and would just sing along with. I can't even listen to it. It comes on and I have to change it because I don't want to bring that frequency down. And, going back to the magical path and talking about you've raised by walking the path and internalizing the craft, you have raised your frequency. And as you do that, people think you're living a magical life, and you are because you're happier, but you're also able to manifest things so much faster for yourself. And there's a much quicker turnaround. And we can recognize our limits and our patterns and cycles that we are stuck in so much faster, and can make correction where need be. So I love all of that. And I would love to hear you talk about, moving from some of the hip hop, like you're saying, and you've got other skills within you, maybe like taking your path in the craft and using those other skills to, within your music, be able to take somebody who's seeking and maybe isn't at that lower frequency and help them vibrate with you at this lower frequency. And through your music, start to bring them up and elevate them to that higher frequency while helping them to realize they can open those doors to get there. Since you've walked that path yourself, then using that with your gift and your many gifts, because like you said, you're more than hip hop, and blending those together, that would be, I think, some very powerful and magical music. That would be really cool to see. So I will hold out and hope that you get to do something like that in the future, because I just think that would just be amazing. And to be able to help people and seekers on this path, and people that maybe get stuck or stray from their path, realize it's quite easy to come back. You just put your foot back over there on the path. So that would be really cool. I'd love to see that. So tell us where your craft and music has taken you. once you started to blend the two?
Well, it took me to the IPMA awards. Um, I, you know, I took. I mean, those. It had an acknowledgement from the pagan community that they're doing pretty good for 2022, and now we're a year later, and revisiting all that. It opened up more doors, and it's just kind of where it took me. Um, and now I'm coming to a point where I can be inspirational to people, and I'm moving into I'm not only a pagan musician. Now people are looking at me maybe differently, um, and more in a leadership role. And I don't. I mean, I mean, I'm Aries born. My son is an Aries. I'm a natural leader and stuff. Um, but I always need to remember, and we all need to remember elements of humility. To not like to boast about it and stuff because it, it's just I'm there's a lesson learned with that too, and I learned that lesson about a year and a half ago with humility. Um, but where is it going now? I mean, I'm going to continue doing music. I know that this winter, and I've learned that the pagan musicians usually in the wintertime they lay low and they record music, write music. And I can assure you that this winter I'm going hard. I'm going to write some more music. I'm going to I'm going to give her Hades for sure. Try to let that happen. But where's it going? I think I have a nice. I give myself credit for a creative process where I'm making pagan music videos for other artists, and I'm
Mm.
getting more creative with video production and editing and stuff, and because I do a lot of it. So I think that's kind of where that's going is better video production, better audio production. Um, I like to sing more. Maybe jump into some different genres besides pagan hip hop, but maybe if that's what's happening, then I should just probably stay with it. But I think but I do have realization, and like we're talking about awareness. I am very aware, and we all should be aware of the power of music. Music is a form of magic. It's one of the most potent magics on the planet, um, because it comes with repetitional magic. From the Stone Age days of banging on a drum, you know, irking and mumbling and people dancing and raising energy and stuff like that. It's just, and infused with repetitional uh, magic of music, and then you put an element of like inspiration into that, it becomes a very potent form of of magic, and that's real magic. Is anytime you can inspire someone, and I guess just being an ex-convict like myself, that has walked the pagan path and is seeing better days. I guess that's inspirational too. Because we don't have to sit uh, in a jail cell. We don't have to suffer from alcoholism or drug addiction or any type of discrepancy. We can reach our highest ideals, but you've got to learn how to flex your will and discipline yourself and stuff. And I guess that's all inspirational. But yeah, where's my music going? It's I don't really know where it's going because another thing that I've been learning on my craft path is that a lot of people who study contemporary witchcraft, they are constantly focusing on other people's paths. Especially the elders and pioneers, a lot of what they teach us is very useful, and we should acknowledge that. We should grab all of that. However, we don't always want to walk the same path they did because when we walk through the woods and the path has already been laid, they've taken their machete and they cut all the brushes down and all the shrubs. The flowers are gone, the berries are gone. However, if you track your own path, if you walk through the woods by yourself and there is bushels and forestry around you, and then you trek through the woods, all of a sudden you see a bushel of blueberries, all those blueberries are yours. You found them. Those are your harvests. This is your path. You go
Right.
further down the road and you find raspberries. Now you're finding, whatever you're into. You might find a beautiful pasture of, rare flowers or, whatever is going on. But if you follow somebody else's path, they've already harvested all that stuff. Why walk their path? Walk your own. We've got to unlock our own potent spirituality, and not follow others. We need to unlock our own spirituality. Um, and that's where I'm going. I want to trek somewhere that no one has been there before, and I'm definitely trekking a path that no one has done before. Um, uh, it's be, my story is different. I know that it's different. I've always been an oddball, odd card. Most in the craft are peculiar, anyways. So I guess I'm a good fit, and I'm not soon going to stop my passion for the craft, contemporary witchcraft and paganism, because at this point, it's all that I know. Um, it's all that I want to know. It
Right.
is it helps Harold Carter move forward and to live. It gives perfect purpose. Um, Hopefully, I just don't get start going cuckoo because I get too aware. Because too much awareness, I think, could be bad, right? 'Cause, if I'm too much aware, But I mean, and I only say that because, well, the early the early like Kabbalists, people who study Kabbalah, they said that people who studied Kabbalah, either it made them very, very wise or they went crazy. And so I hope that I don't go crazy. But if we really take a look at a lot of the elders, the pioneers, the people that have walked their own paths, you know, they're all a little bit peculiar, very wise, very smart, but always peculiar. And I think that contemporary craft, we're a peculiar lot. Um, yeah, yeah.
Awesome. So thank you for that. I love that. I love that idea of creating your own path and creating your own way, and while honoring um, those who have gone before you, and taking on the wisdom that you can from them, and then applying it to, make your own way. I think we need more of that, I think. Um, and I think along those same lines, when making your mini paths, respect the many paths that there are. There's not one way to get anywhere. There's multiple ways to get places, and respect each other on the journey. I think that's huge as well. So, yeah. Okay, so I would like to say, I know you're being humble, but you were the recipient of the IPMA Male Artist Award for 2022.
Mhm.
So congratulations to you, and you are up for it again this year, right?
Yeah, yeah. The Pagan Music Awards are in Starwood in Ohio. Yep, they'll be there. Yep, we get to find out who the best male artist, best female, and best band of the year is. We sure do get to find out. I'm I'm hoping it's a good show. It's gonna be a good show. I heard a lot of people are gonna be there, and a lot of iconic pagan folks are gonna be at Starwood this year. Yeah, so come on out there and buy tickets and come out there and hang out and say hi to the lone wolf and everyone else that's gonna be there. It's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, yeah. Tell us when that is, and where can people find more info? And I'll include all the links as well.
So if you go to starwoodfestival.com, you can go up on there and get your tickets. I think you go there for a day, you go there for the week. Um, yeah, starwoodfestival.com.
Okay, all right. We'll have people check that out, and I'll add the link. And what do you do today? What are you doing right now before you reach hibernation stage?
Oh, what am I doing today? Well, I manage a pagan television station, Fringe TV, um, and that consumes a lot of my time with programming. I also have a show that runs on Fringe called The Lone Wolf Show, which has been around for about a year and a half, steady going. Um, Plus, I have my own musical endeavors. Plus, I gotta, cook supper, do dishes, and
Right.
still gotta do, fix
Good
this or
Monday.
that, and
Yeah.
fix this or that, fix stuff, and yeah.
Tell us a little bit about Fringe and how people can find that.
Fringe TV is a pagan television station that has been around since 2015. It operates 365 days a year, 24/7. It is 100% free, and you can check it out at www.fringetv.online. And they have a VIP section, which is for members only, where you can go into that specifically, where you can find content that on demand with really good movies, brand new movies, and and other content that is adult programming where we can't do publicly, but can be for VIP. Um, and there's that. I mean, yeah, Fringe TV. There's a lot of good shows on there. We have the first pagan music video spotlight, where we showcase pagan musicians. It's kind of run like the old school MTV, where you introduce the music, they talk about it. That's run by Lord Alexian. That's innovative, first in the world stuff right there for pagan television. Um, we have shows Monday through Sunday, really. I mean, I could go through them all. It will take a while. Monday, Lawn Milo Duquette show with your Aleister Crowley and OTO material. Monday is also the Witch Source. Tuesday is your pagan music video spotlight. Um, and you have Wednesday, which is your 7 o'clock Lady Starfire with pagan do's and don'ts. Followed at 8 o'clock, Astro Tarot show with Sorona Rose. 9 o'clock is a shamanistic approach on modern contemporary shamanism by Shaman Weaver. Thursday is Denton's Tales coming to us from Ireland, talking about the true elements of being a Viking. And one of the things he says that I learned a lot from him is that people really need to stop calling themselves Vikings because, homie, you ain't got a ship. And you're not a Viking unless you got a ship. So come on, guys, let's stop talk that we're Vikings because unless you have a huge ship. So we have Dickens Tales at 6 and the Pagan Artist Spotlight coming from Iowa with Earl Williams with his music spotlight. Friday is Oculus Alchemy coming from Manhattan, who has a very professional studio, I might add. Australia, the wonderful Tamara von Forslund, who works so very hard, giving us, great content and, putting a stop to misinformation on craft-related topics. And 9 o'clock on Saturday is Witches and Wine with Lola Starr coming from the ATC. So there's all kinds of programming and lots of in-betweens where Saturday and Sunday evening cartoons. And, the list goes on and on. And, documentaries. Um, I mean, all kinds of things. African voodoo. I mean, we do Aborigine. We do everything. Um, I'm, trying very hard to get a lot of curriculum that is traditional, um, although it is a challenging endeavor,
Mm-hmm.
because of, what's available, for, pagan content. I'm constantly looking for new shows. There's a new show in development by a sorcerer. And this particular sorcerer started a sorcerer's guild, been around for, I believe, 20 years, and is top notch sorcerers. He's plugged in with all the sorcerers on the planet. great show. I mean, so there's there's new stuff every day. And Fringe will be going on like a co-pilot, so to speak, when we have the Pagan Music Awards, because Fringe TV will be there.
Yay.
And that likes, yeah, there's always stuff going on Fringe TV, and there's a lot of people that have invested their time and with Fringe, and I am working nonstop every day. Um, Anywhere from 5 to 8 hours a day, every day on Fringe TV, sometimes more. Because there's a lot that comes with that. There's social media
Right.
that involves with that, and the actual programming and dealing with the different shows, and you know, uh, it's just so much work. But like we said earlier in the interview, only with the sweat of your brow will you obtain, you know, magical power, and not just magical power. Only with the sweat of your brow are you gonna, get anywhere.
Right.
Repetition is very important. Uh, Repetition yields power.
Yes.
Steady, uh, you know, ongoing, you know, dependable, reliable. Fringe TV is going to be here for the long haul. Um, you know, Unless I get struck by lightning, and
Well,
if
let's
I
hope
get
that
struck
does not.
by and if it happens that I get struck by lightning, I would assume that I would be more energized to give you more pagan television. But yeah, I work very hard. There's a lot going on, but yeah, there's a lot to talk about with Fringe. You know, so how's that for a 10-minute infomercial?
Perfect.
Okay.
Perfect. Um, okay, I know we're going a little bit over, but I think that's okay because I want to ask you a few more things.
Sure.
Um, if you had to pick some people, um, whether they're here or not, um, when I say that, I mean, physically in this realm on this earth at this time. But if you had to pick some people that you wanted to say thank you to that really helped you on your path, who would that be?
Oh man. Ooh, who am I gonna say thank you to? Um, Man, that's a real tough one. Who would I say thank you to? Um, I would say thank you to myself. I mean, that can be I can be egotistic or arrogant and stuff like that. But I mean, truth be told, I feel like I am the one who sent me here. I've got to be. I sent me here to this wonderful planet. So yeah, thank you. For myself. Give myself some self. Some self worth, man. Um,
Yeah,
I mean, it's
absolutely.
I mean, that's kind of a spur of the moment question, but I guess you just gotta thank yourself sometimes.
Yes.
You gotta look out for yourself. But besides you being so arrogant, and arrogant with myself, thank you for people that have helped me along my path. There are many pagan pioneers and elders that have helped me through my own path. You know, Thank you to Paul Barrow. Thank you to um, Dorothy Morrison for writing her book. Thank you for Louise Ann Salin, the Millennial Kingdom that is no longer here on the planet. Thank you to Melissa Anderson. Thank you to so many different people, or Lexian, everybody involved with French TV. Anybody that has support my endeavors. Thank you for that. The musicians that were so kind, Ginger Ackley, Mama Gina. These people are so kind. You know, um, Thank you for accepting me into the pagan communities, musician scene and stuff. Being so welcoming, and and knowing that I come from that hard knock life, and still saying, what, it's cool, man, it's cool. Um,
Yeah.
you know, Thank you for anybody that. Thank you to the person that has compassion. That is, and thank you to the person that helps another person unlock their own spirituality and not telling them how to walk that spirituality. You know,
Yes.
I wish I had some. I probably shouldn't have started off with thanking myself, but we got to thank ourselves, because we are the people that has sent us here. We sent
Yeah.
ourselves here. if
We
we're going to
chose
talk like
you,
that,
you
that's
chose to walk the path. So if you hadn't have chose that and done the work, we wouldn't be having this interview right now.
right.
So
Yeah.
thank you. I thank you as well. I'm grateful for you, and you know, I'm thankful that I've met you, and I'm thankful that you've given me a chance and believed in me, and given me a spot on Fringe TV with the Witch Source and the interviews here, because I love doing this. So I definitely think it was wise to start with thanking yourself first, actually.
Thank you.
Um, okay, one last question. Are there any books um, that you would recommend? What would be like your top, like 3 books that you would recommend to somebody if they want to just learn more about the path, about the craft, and figuring out their path to walk? Do you have like a top 3 that meant the world to you?
Top three. Okay. A lot. There's a lot of magic philosophy and writings and traditions that all kind of go to a book called Cornelius Agrippa's Three Books of Occult Philosophy. And that book was written in the 15th century. And I think that that particular book, it's written like really adeptly. Like it's hard to understand, but if you can like spend some time with it, you'll find that a lot of what it talks about is the same things that they're kind of teaching today. So that would be a high recommendation. Is Cornelius Agrippa's Three Books of Occult Philosophy. Um, there's another text called the Kabbalion, which is basically written about their elements of mutable law, and immutable law are laws that are not changeable. That they just simply are. You cannot. There's no argument. You can't debate them, and they were like translated into like several different languages, uh, and hopefully I'm pronouncing it correctly. The Kabbalion. Um, that would be my second. Um, and we say books and stuff, and a lot of. I mean, let's face it. The craft is was intended as an oral tradition, you know. And I understand there's a lot of books and stuff like that, and it's wise to read everything you can, especially for people who just started out. And I'm even like people that are, been in the craft for decades, they still are well read. They read things, they write books and stuff like that. Um, but my third choice is not a book at all. My third choice is Mother Nature, because Mother Nature is a teacher that will never lie to us. So let us
Mm.
always learn from her.
I love that. That is excellent, excellent response. I greatly appreciate each recommendation, and especially nature. I don't think there's ever been a truer statement. You're absolutely right there. We see the good, the bad, the ugly, the unexplained, the explained, all of it. So yeah, awesome. Okay, and I guess we'll go ahead and wrap up here. And is there any final things that you wish to share or wish to say um, to the world?
Yeah, Witch Source rocks, man.
Love it. Awesome. Thank you so much for being here and doing this interview. It has been magical, truly, and exciting. So thank you. And I will hopefully get to interview you some more. Maybe when you have a new album come out, we can talk about it. I think that would be great to do. So until next time, and hopefully I'll catch you guys on the Fringe.